Okay, lesson 8. I don't know if this is my second or my third favorite lesson, because I've already told you I had a first and a second favorite lesson, but this one is really cool. It's a huge lesson. There's a lot entailed, and it's very similar to lesson 4. Now, what happens here, the lesson is, for the most part, second rounds, third rounds, 4 rounds, however many rounds, because there's a number of things that can take place here. Now, for those items that don't come off from your first round or your multiple first rounds, you gather everything together for your second round. Now, what you would do is sometimes, depending on the situation, I'll bundle them together and I'll send a Pruvit letter to the credit bureaus asking them to prove it. And then that just gives opportunity for maybe another item or two to shed and fall off. But where time is essential, what you could do is simply write that Pruvit letter to the creditor. Now, the creditor is, don't confuse your creditor with a collection company. Sometimes it might be the same company, it might be a different department, or it could actually be an entirely different company that they sold a letter, or they sold your account to, forgive me. And so let's go through and I'm going to show you those letters. Now, I've said this before, that all the letters are very similar in their dynamic, and you'll see that as you compare them. Now, this first one here, this is the Pruvit letter. You would write this to the creditor, and in a lot of ways, it's very much the same type of dispute letter you would have sent to the credit bureau. Always keep in mind what's being written here, because you might want to change a word or two depending on what it is you're asking. But really, the responses on the other end are so generic, their letters are already made to respond, that they don't get all caught up in a word or two. They know what's being asked in the body, and they're going to just send you the information that you need. And so this Pruvit letter, you could write this to the bureaus or the creditor, really. Now, if there's a collection company that filed that item on the credit reports, what you're going to do is you're going to send them a debt validation letter. Collection companies oftentimes receive a lot of information that's lacking a lot of crucial, important information. And collection companies, I know there are some out there that do really good business, and they're very professional and they stick to the rules. But others, you get a feel that they're in a back alley somewhere, and some Goomba is running the sales floor, for lack of a better term, and by next month they may be in a different location because the federal government's looking for them. A lot has improved with collections. 10 years ago, it's amazing what they could get away with, and they just can't do that now. So that's a good thing for us. Now, this debt validation, basically, see how it says, I dispute your claims in this entirely, and I'm requesting validation. You're not admitting or acknowledging that this even belongs to you. Again, you're putting the burden of proof back onto the person, where it belongs. So they are going to respond or they're not. Whatever happens, you're going to then send another dispute to the credit bureaus. And what you're going to do is state in that letter that they were unable to validate or send you information, and in which case you could then send a Pruvit letter. So change the body of the letter here. I really want you guys to be, learning how to create letters on your own. Because I'm telling you, a family member, a friend is going to have an issue like that, and you'll be able to step up and say, I can write a letter that is going to get a result or a response. And so, again, debt validation, for the most part, is belonging to collectors or collection companies, perhaps to a lesser degree, a collection department within the company that you disputed. You could actually send the debt validation letter to your creditor. You really could. And so Where the Pruvit Letter, comes from the other side of things. You can come somewhere in the middle and maybe even create a letter that is somewhere in between those two. So if an item is incorrect to your knowledge, or you have tangible proof that it is an incorrect item, like you have another letter somewhere that says the information, the proof, what you need to get that item removed, and the credit bureaus and the collector and the creditor will not do so, that's where you're going to start getting a little bit more nasty. Kind of like with the credit bureaus telling you that your dispute letter was suspicious somehow. You have grounds to get upset. This is the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. This is the one that really keeps them in line. This is the act that keeps collection companies from lying to you and harassing you and calling you names and putting you down. There's such a fine line that they are able to walk now. So, for the most part, if a collection company is harassing you, it's kind of funny. I've told clients of mine, and I'll be honest, this maybe is not the most professional thing, but I've told them, tell them that you're recording the call, or that you're going to tell your attorney that they're harassing you. And oftentimes you'll never hear from them again. It's actually really funny. So I'm not telling you to do that, but wink, wink, if you want to, go right ahead. So yeah, you can file the complaint with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and they will, it even describes here, damages can be up to $1,000 per incident. This can open the door to, lawsuits. Create that paper trail. Do your due diligence. When things ever go to court, I'm not telling you that you'll ever step into a courthouse or a courtroom, but it's important that you exhaust all other remedies and you show you've done everything in your power to resolve that matter. Otherwise, it's very difficult to get taken serious. And so, yeah, your second, your third rounds, there's a number of different things that you can do depending on your scenario. But first, make sure every item has been disputed with the credit bureaus. You've taken that first measure. Every item has come back with some kind of a response, because responses will give you what I like to think of as ammo that you can put into your credit repair gun. And so sometimes what you need, and this isn't always the case, what you need to get an item removed, they may actually send to you in your response. And so keep copies of everything. That should be in one of your folders that we talked about before. So yeah, and same thing applies, 30 days, Fair Credit Reporting Act, they have to respond. And so that's why I positioned these two steps, 4 and 8, where I did, while we're doing a ton of other work in the mix, so that you're getting specific results while working on your credit score as well. So I'm really excited with you guys. By now, we should have some feedback on how many items are being deleted from the letters that you guys have put together. Some of you will say, man, I've had 10 items and they're all gone. There are others that, you'll have 9 items and only 3 of them will be off. Typically results in your first round, if you've got 9 items, you're going to see 6 of those come off. And so that's typically what I've seen. But of course, results are all over the place. You guys are doing a great job. I want to congratulate you on that. Next week, we are going to talk about really just cracking your world and your goals and your financial status wide open, and thinking outside the box there. So I'll see you guys next week. Get these letters done within the next week so that they are sent out before I see you again.